We're going to talk now about the conditions that in this country that were going to be created that would eventually lead to the stock market crash and the Great Depression. And before the Great Depression, there was a long period in time where Republicans controlled the White House, and business between and the relation between business and the White House is very close. Talk about a couple instances of that. There were labor problems with unions. The Boston Police, one of the most famous ones of this era of the 1920s, was when the Boston Police went on strike. 19 police officers were fired for trying to organize and start a union because they wanted better pay and better working conditions. This odd thing about the Boston police strike was the President of the United States took a stand against the union when riots broke out between the Boston police and their supporters. The Army National Guard was sent in to take control of the situation, and the president actually took a stand against the union. There were also some huge confrontations in the steel and coal industries. The steel industry, they had 12-hour shifts that and they had work weeks for employees that were sometimes more than 65 hours a work week. And the people who worked in that industry wanted better conditions, less hours, shorter shifts. This is very backbreaking work. The private police were hired, which weren't even really police. There's thugs hired as security by the people who own the steel mills. This is when I've talked with you in the past about how people have lost their lives for the rights for a 40-hour work week and an 8-hour work day. This is what I'm talking about. Those private police or thugs killed 18 strikers and beat hundreds more, and they did not get what they wanted. They broke the strike by breaking the backs of the workers. And coal, when winter sets in and the demand for coal, because that's what you burned in your furnace and your fireplace, they got a raise. And that was pretty good when they actually settled that. When there was more work to be done, the companies were making more, they actually paid the workers more. So that one was settled better than the police strike or the steel strike. Republicans, and here's a national convention from 1920. Republicans were the party of business. The Democratic Party was the party of immigrants, then the party of the poor for the most part. So there was always more money going into the Republicans than there were the Democrats back in this era. And from 1921 to 1933, they pretty much ran the White House. They were elected over and over and over again, and it was a much wealthier party, so they did better in elections. Warren G. Harding was one of these presidents. Warren G. Harding is a believer in isolationism. He wanted to avoid entanglements abroad, avoid alliances or agreements with foreign countries. He also wanted to raise tariffs on imported goods, and as you know, a tariff is a tax on something that's imported, and what it does is it raises the price on imported goods, and the effect is it's supposed to force Americans to buy local products or products made in America instead of foreign-made products. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. He also created the Dawes Plan, which was to help Germany pay off its debts after World War I. So we, the United States, not Europe, was still trying to avoid conflict in that area as vis-a-vis the Treaty of Versailles after World War I. During this time, there was a return to nativism. This is when you favor native-born citizens over foreign-born citizens. There was a resurgence in patriotism, which can be extreme sometimes. Foreigners, there's this idea during this era that foreigners could never truly be loyal to the United States, that people who were born in other countries will never be loyal to the United States if they come here. There was a backlash against religions that were different. We began to not trust Catholics or Jews or Orthodox Christians. There's this whole idea of, they're coming here to America and taking the jobs that we want, which is pretty much not true. If we wanted those jobs, we'd have them. And then there was the Red Scare, which we talked about last class. This was a bunch of things when combined created a backlash against immigrants, created a backlash against people who were different than us in religion and accents. And it was not a good time to be an immigrant to the United States.